This is the Jeep Gladiator Mojave, and it's expensive. Okay, I know that's probably not the jumping off point that a lot of you out there were hoping for, but just like this color, it's really hard to ignore. It starts at right around 63 grand before tax here in Canada, and it doesn't even come with heated seats. Yes, really. Now, what it does come with is all kinds of extra abilities off the beaten path, but you better be prepared to pay to play.
For more expert car reviews, don't forget to share our channel and subscribe so you can catch some of this and maybe even a little of that.
Okay, look, before we get into it, and before any of you jump into the comments and tell me you paid less for your Gladiator or that you're American, the two things you should know. A, I am talking about Canadian pricing, and B, I cannot talk about dealer incentives. It's like I always say, they fluctuate so much from month to month, week to week, region to region, even city to city. So if I tell you you can get it for, I don't know, 5 grand less, and you go to your dealer and you can't, well, that comes back on me. So all I can talk about is MSRP, manufacturer's suggested retail price, and that is about 63 grand before tax, because freight adds about 2,100 bucks to any trim. Even the base Gladiator, that is expensive too. It starts right around 55,000 bucks. This ain't a cheap truck. There is no way to cut it. And the other thing is, Jeep is down to nickel and dime you over absolutely everything, including those heated seats that I talked about. Those are part of a cold weather group package that includes this heated steering wheel as well as a remote starter, which to me is the worst invention in automotive history. But anyways, you got to pay an extra, I don't know, 1,300 bucks for that or 1,100 bucks. It doesn't matter. And yeah, in the context of a $63,000 Jeep, you're thinking that's peanuts, but it's not the point. It's that if you're paying $63,000, you should definitely get heated seats and probably a heated steering wheel too. The same thing goes with this hardtop. Now I know what you might be thinking. These fabric panels, they should probably be included in the $2,500 asking price for this 3-piece hardtop. But you would be wrong. They're an extra 725 bucks, and they are cheap fabric, Velcro stuck to this thing. Very disappointing that is the route that Jeep has taken here, and with just about every other one of its products. Now, I guess you could say none of that matters because there are plenty of Jeep diehards out there who will pay whatever it takes to park one of these in the driveway, but I think there are just as many people who feel priced out of the Jeep family, including this guy that stopped me at the grocery store the other day to compliment this Gladiator, especially in this super bright color. It's not for everyone. I kind of dig it. But anyways, his thing was he really likes the Gladiator, always has since it came out, but it's just too expensive. And I'd have to agree with him. Anyways, we should talk about this Mojave trim in particular. And it's about more than just these badges on the hood, as well as that one on the fender that says it's desert rated. The big addition, Fox suspension at all 4 corners, including hydraulic bump stops. That's pretty cool. You also get a locking rear differential, this off-road drive mode that changes the throttle and transmission mapping, that kind of stuff, as well as these 33-inch tires that are very loud, but they are also very good. They're Falcon Wild Peaks, I think. They're very good tires. I did take this thing off-roading the other day. Now, also keep in mind, that's not what this is about. The Rubicon is the rock crawler. So if you want a Gladiator or a Wrangler for that matter, that's really dedicated to getting over big obstacles out on the trail, that thing has locking front and rear differentials as well as a disconnecting front sway bar. This thing is more like a pre-runner style, a desert racer, hence the name. So that's what this is all about. I think it does make it a little better suited to daily driving because let's face it, that's what you're doing most of the time. I don't think many people are buying this as kind of a dedicated weekend vehicle. This is something that you drive to work, take the kids to school, whatever you got to do. So it really is at least a little better suited to daily life while still delivering good capability out on the trail. No, I didn't do anything too crazy, but unsurprisingly, it handled itself just fine. Here is the big problem, at least for me. You cannot get the turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with this Gladiator Mojave, but the big one for me is the fact that the plug-in hybrid powertrain you can get in the Wrangler that this thing's based on is not offered in the Gladiator. And that's going on like 3 years now that you've been able to get that Wrangler 4xe. The fact that Jeep has not added it to the Gladiator lineup is a big disappointment to me, especially because that thing became the best-selling plug-in hybrid in the US last year. And I think this thing could easily do the same. It would also be very unique because, yeah, you can get a couple different electric pickups, but there are no plug-in hybrid pickups. This thing would be a trailblazer in the most literal sense, and I really think that is missing from the equation here. The other big problem is this thing is an absolute pig on gas. Now, officially, it's rated for 12.3 liters per 100 kilometers combined, which is bad on its own. Then when you add all these off-road goodies, well, it's only going to get worse, and it's definitely been worse this week. I'm up around 14 liters per 100 kilometers, and I've had this thing in rear-wheel drive about 95% of the time. It's only when I was off-roading the other day that I switched it into 4-wheel high. That is very disappointing. It is summertime. This isn't winter where you're running the heater. I haven't even had the air conditioning on very often. I like to have the windows down, even pop some of the center sections of this roof out, because that's what this thing is all about. So that inefficiency is pretty atrocious. That is a big one for me. And again, it's just one more reason I really think the plug-in hybrid powertrain makes so much sense. So really the best way to look at the Gladiator is a 4-door Wrangler with a bed bolted to the back. And that means it's very much the same for better or for worse. So you have the outstanding capability baked right in, but it also means driving it on the road, not so great. This thing wanders like crazy. Now, the long wheelbase does help. It doesn't buck back and forth as much as the Wrangler, but in terms of busy hands, there's definitely truth to the anecdote that this thing can go anywhere but a straight line. You are going to be very active. And I know this is a pickup truck, so you are expecting a little more of a rigid ride. It's body on frame, all of that stuff, but this isn't a cakewalk, especially if you take a look at it next to the Toyota Tacoma or even the Nissan Frontier, which I don't like all that much, but those things are a little easier to drive in everyday circumstances. But then again, this thing has the solid axles front and rear. That is a big contributing factor, especially the one up front. You can also feel the suspension really pulling the tires, the wheels, over all these potholes and stuff like that. You can really feel them dragging downwards. And then in terms of truck stuff, well, as atypical as this truck is, it can do that kind of regular stuff pretty well. This version, it's rated for about 1,200 pounds of payload and 6,000 pounds of towing capacity. So that means you could hook up a boat, a camper, whatever you want. I have towed with one of these in the past. Didn't do it this week, but it can handle itself again with that V6 engine. But that is just another scenario where your fuel bill is only going to grow. Now, in terms of everyday usability, whether you're on the road or the trail, I like that there are still so many buttons and knobs and dials. Everything in here feels really straightforward, easy to use. You don't have to poke and prod. You can reach down here and feel, okay, these must be the window switches. Here's the volume knob. You don't have to take your eyes off the road. Even this 8.4-inch touchscreen isn't bad, although I will say I was spoiled that I drove the 2024 Wrangler not too long ago. You can jump on the channel and watch my review of that thing. It's got that new touchscreen. It's LED backlit, so it doesn't get washed out in the sun when you take the roof off, which this thing does just a little bit. That thing also has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, wired connections here, but there's still a decent selection of stuff. Although I should also point out, it's not just the heated seats and steering wheel or the headliner that's optional, even advanced safety systems. I'm talking every single one of them, right down to forward collision warning and adaptive cruise control. Of course, you cannot get lane keep assist in this thing because nobody's keeping this thing within its lane markings, but that's also the reason why this one I'm driving is over $80,000 before tax. Yikes. To recap, I like the capability the Gladiator delivers, especially in a trim like this one, the fact it still uses physical buttons and dials for most features and functions, and the great colors it's offered in. I don't like how outrageously expensive it is, the way it wanders on the open road, or that it's not offered as a plug-in. Look, maybe this is one of those situations where if you know, you know. If you like the look of the Gladiator and the image it projects, not to mention the outstanding capability it delivers, not even a pickup like the Tacoma TRD Pro is going to have the same sort of appeal. The marks against it for me are that it's overpriced, inefficient, and a bit of a chore to drive, but then you might just call those the cost of doing business with a pickup truck that's unlike anything else out there.